Weekly consideration. Pesach supplemental portion. 128.8.12 semicolon 76 semicolon 1 full dos. Growing in a garden. Giving. Pesach supplemental towards a tender child. Omer, Pentecost, Ridvan. Greetings, holy kinfolk of earth and universe. Namaste, assalamu alaikum, shalom, mir, jai, janindra, satnam, ni hao. Buenos dias, hitsche, konnichiwa, sobadikrap, salongwa, eshwa, esh, agape, akwaba, welcome. What up, though? Spring is arrived and arriving amidst eagerly awaiting hosts. Green seems greener, round seems rounder, firm seems firmer, hard seems softer, soft seems harder. Water absorbs, replenishes, cleanses, and nourishes. White vapors float within the blue sky. Yellow light reflects from the vertical walls. Black shadows walk across the plains and windows. Metal receptacles sit still, holding it in, letting it go. Distant calls from the seas perch upon roof peaks. The breeze, continual, continuing. Footsteps within the corridor and aspirations. The clouds keep slowly drifting, low and beautiful. Lo and behold, balance amidst being and benevolent paths, somewhere near Trece. This is the weekly consideration for a supplemental portion Pesach, within our yearly cycle of study within Tobadi Kokadao. This is an additional portion that occurs within our yearly schedule. This year it occurs between portion 28, Metzora, and portion 29, Achare. There are traditional reasons for this that I can share upon request. For the moment, I simply share that's what it is, and this is what it is. The full reading of this supplemental Pesach portion includes from Torah, Shmot 12:21 a 51, 33:12 a 34:26, and Bemidbar 28:16 a 25. From Chandogya Upanishads, Kanda 5:1 a 2, from Bhagavad Gita, Atma Samyasa Yogahe 6, from Tao Te Ching, chapter 2, from Lun Yu, chapter 2, from Digha Nikaya, the Kuttadanta Sutta 5, from the Dhammapada, the Sukha Vajja 15, from the Gospels Matthew 5 a 7, from the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman 55, and from Melange tradition, Uno Garden, Dos Kingdoms. To be honest, within recent years, for a number of reasons, I tend to abstain from posting a weekly consideration for this supplemental portion, Pesach, perhaps particularly in the interest of simplicity and a breather. However, for certain reasons, this year I am posting a weekly consideration, particularly perhaps because of my immediate experience of being a refugee, specifically within Ramadan, Easter, and Pesach. However, admittedly, I am posting this weekly consideration somewhat out of sequence. The actual portion this week is portion 29, Achare. Yet I already posted a weekly consideration a week ago for portion 29, Achare, with the initial intention that it covers these 2 weeks. Yet, as I communicate amidst these conditions, I am called to post another weekly consideration based upon the readings for this past week, the readings for the supplemental Pesach portion. Thus, this is what I do. The weekly consideration is growing in a garden, giving. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Allahu Akbar. Dao Kodao Fe Chong Dao Min Kaming Fe Chong Min Ja. Deus nos de qui essentiale santo facito nomentum Vaheguru Satnam. Baruch Chata Elohim Eloheinu Melech Haolam Asher Katzanu B'Mitzvotav V'Tzivan L'Zok B'Ruvai Torah. Amen. Kyrie eleison. Sivomastu savejikatahim. Sabe sada bhavantu sukhitata. Fagabiyam. Aquaba upendo na amani. Fikiri na salami. Chinta dan peraman. Li abovamir. Womajigan. Ubuntu shabana fekithga. Shisha. Kamosanida. Domo arigato. Pelama yellow wakan toko doku shungun. Gomanigan. God, we thank you for all that you bless us. Ata Jami Ata Fanami, Madom, Aho, Om Shanti Shanti Shanti, Amen. From the Torah, Shmot 34, 6 a 7. And Elohim passed before him and proclaimed, Elohim, Elohim, benevolent God who is compassionate and gracious, slow to anger and abundant in loving kindness and truth, preserving loving kindness and for thousands, forgiving iniquity and rebellion and sin. Yet Elohim does not completely clear of sin. Elohim visits the iniquity of parents on children and children's children to the third and fourth generations. 1 Ahava Veshalom. From the Chandogya Upanishads, Kanda 5:1 a 5. Om. He who knows what is the oldest and greatest becomes himself the oldest and greatest. The prana indeed is the oldest and greatest. He who knows what is the most excellent, Vasishta, becomes the most excellent amongst his kinsmen. The organ of speech indeed is the most excellent. He who knows what has the attributes of firmness, Pratishta, becomes firm in this world and the next. The eye indeed is endowed with firmness. He who knows prosperity, Sampad, his wishes are fulfilled, both heavenly and human wishes. The ear indeed is prosperity. He who knows the abode, Ayatana, becomes the abode of his kinsmen. The mind indeed is the abode. 1 Ananda Shanti. From the Bhagavad Gita, the Atma Samyana Yoga He 6:5-9. Let a man be lifted up by his own self. Let him not lower himself. For he himself is his friend, and he himself is his enemy. To him who has conquered himself by himself, his own self is a friend. But to him who has not conquered himself, his own self is hostile, like an external enemy. He who has conquered himself and is serene in mind is constantly absorbed in the Supreme Self, alike in cold and heat, pleasure and pain, and honor and dishonor. He is said to be a steadfast yogi whose heart, through knowledge and realization, is filled with satisfaction, who, having conquered his senses, never vacillates, and to whom a clod, a stone, and gold are the same. He who has equal regard for well-wishers, friends, and foes, for those who are related or indifferent to him, for the impartial and the malicious, and even for the righteous and the sinful, he stands supreme. 1 Ananda Shanti. From the Tao Te Ching, chapter 2, 1 a 17. When the world knows beauty as beauty, ugliness arises. When it knows benevolence as benevolence, evil arises. Thus being and non-being produce each other. Difficult and easy bring about each other. Long and short reveal each other. Music and voice harmonize each other. Front and back follow each other. Therefore the sages manage the work of detached actions, conduct the teaching of no words. They work with myriad things but do not control. They create but do not possess. They act but do not dwell on success. It is because they do not dwell on success that it never goes away. 1 Ayu Heping. And from the Lun Yu 2:3, the master says, guide them by edicts, keep them in line with punishments, and the common people will stay out of trouble, but will have no sense of shame. Guide them by virtue, keep them in line with rights, and they will, besides having a sense of shame, reform themselves. 1 Ayu Heping. From the Digha Nikaya, the Kuttadanta Sutta 5:11. Thereupon the Brahmin who was chaplain said to the king, the king's country, sire, is harassed and harried. There are dacoits abroad who pillage the villages and townships, and who make the roads unsafe. Were the king so long as that is so to levy a fresh tax, verily his majesty would be acting wrongly. But perchance his majesty might think, I'll soon put a stop to those scoundrels' game by degradation and banishment and fines and bond and death. But their license cannot be satisfactorily put a stop to so. The remnant left unpunished would still go on harassing the realm. Now there is one method to adopt to put a thorough end to this disorder. Whosoever there be in the king's realm who devote themselves to keeping cattle and the agriculture, to them let his majesty the king give food and seed corn. Whosoever there be in the king's realm who devote themselves to trade, to them let his majesty the king give capital. Whosoever there be in the king's realm who devote themselves to government service, let his majesty the king give wages and food. Then those men following each his own business will no longer harass the realm. The king's revenue will go up, the country will be quiet and at peace, and the populace pleased one with another and happy, dancing their children in their arms, will dwell with open doors. Then King Mahavidita, O Brahmin, accepted the word of the chaplain and did as he had said, and those men following each his business harassed the realm no further, and the king's revenue went up, and the country became quiet and at peace, and the populace pleased one with another and happy, dancing their children in their arms, dwelt with open doors. One Metta Samadhi. From the Dhammapada, the Sukha Vaja 15, Happy indeed we live, we who possess nothing. Feeders on happiness, we shall be like the radiant angels. Victory begets enmity, the defeated dwell in pain. Happily, the peaceful live, discarding both victory and defeat. One Metta Samadhi. From the Gospels, Matthew 5:14-16. You are the light of the world. A town built on a hill cannot be hidden. Neither do people light a lamp and put it under a bowl. Instead, they put it on its stand, and it gives light to everyone in the house. In the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your benevolent deeds and glorify your Creator in heaven. From the Quran, Surah Ar-Rahman 55:1-13. Allah most gracious. It is Allah who has taught the Quran. Allah has created man. Allah has taught him speech and intelligence. The sun and moon, follow courses exactly computed, and the herbs and the trees, both alike and bow in adoration. And the firmament has Allah raised high, and Allah has set up the balance of justice, in order that ye may not transgress due balance. So establish weight with justice and fall not short in the balance. It is Allah who has spread out the earth for Allah's creatures. Therein is fruit and date palms, producing spays, enclosing dates. Also corn with its leaves, and stalk for fodder, and sweet-smelling plants. Then which of the favors of your Lord will you deny? One Alhab Wassalam. From Melange tradition, Uno Garden dos Kingdoms, paragraph Uno. There is a garden. Amidst the garden there are dos kingdoms. In the direction of the rising sun, there is a kingdom. In the direction of the rising earth, there is a kingdom. In the direction of the median, there are the people of the fields. In the direction of the polarities, there are people of the plains. This is where the saga occurs. One love and peace. Alhamdulillah, Rahmani Rahim, Allah Wabha, Dako Da, Fei Chong Dao, Ming Kaming, Fei Chong Ming Ja. Deus Noster, Kia Sinchele, Santo Fakito, Mantu, Vahegu Sanam. Baruch Ata Elohim, Elohim, Melechalam, Meshakasanam, Bamitoda, Vitimam, Sokburu Vaitore. Amen. Kyrie Lesum, Seva Mastu, Sabrigate, Sabe, Sata, Bovanto, Sukitata, Fagabium. Aquaba, Upendo Namani, Fakiri, Nesalami, Chinta Dan Permin, Libov Me, Womajaga, Umbudu, Shubana, Fakitka. Shishin, Kamasanida, Domo, Aragato, Pilama, Yellow, Wakatoko, Toko, Shingun, Gominigan, Gawe, thank you for the buses. At the Jamiata, Fanami, Mado, Aho, Shanti, Amen. Alhamdulillah, Baruch Hashem, Jayom, Hallelujah, Aho, Mado, Vaheguru, Satnam, Hom, Shishishi. We continue rolling. I focus on those joints at this moment, completing a working draft of Refugee Champion, favorably completing with Dansk Immigration the asylum process. In communicating with my wife and Elohim willing, our working intention is to secure a renewing residential permission here in Denmark to establish Verdensland Kulturhus in Denmark as a personal residence for our household and a school, community center, and retreat for learning of Earth civilization and world civilization. Favorably, an initial renewable 5 single-year lease arrangement, Elohim willing, we build mixed heritage world citizen eco village around Verdensland Kulturhus. We coordinate with family and loved ones to build mixed heritage world citizen eco villages in additional locations around the earth. Elohim willing, within the next single years, we have and raise children at the toddler age, periodically visiting family and loved ones on other lands. Elohim willing, after single years, we begin a practice of family sabbatical. Every 1 to 2 years, we convene a 1 to 2 month family sabbatical and live in other lands, most favorably with partnering eco villages with our continual home base in Denmark. Elohim willing, when our children mature, we make a collective decision concerning our further long-term residential arrangements. We solicit from Dansk Kinfolk in Society, government, royal house, civic community, loyal communion, religious community, immigrant community, publication companies, private investment, and additionally, the basics, residential permission, and a single-year country house lease arrangement wherein to establish Verdensland. What we offer in exchange is manuscripts for publication, education, and consultation services, providing orientation to Earth civilization, that reads, providing orientation to kinfolk concerning Earth civilization. One-time workshop, 4-day intensive certificate program, talks, lectures, Q&A sessions, and additionally, I have a second interview scheduled with Danish immigration this Wednesday, Elohim willing. Much of my immediate focus is preparing for this. This includes reaching out to legal counsel, of whom I am recently informed. Upon the completion of the second interview this week, Elohim willing, I intend to focus increasingly on the next steps, Verdensland Kulturhus and Mahe Wagies Press. In our adapted methodology, we are reaching specifically and directly to Dansk immigrant leadership, recognizing the expertise and motivation such a constituency maintains for such a project. We are also reaching specifically and directly to kinfolk in Denmark who practice Panchasila, the ethical discipline of honesty, sobriety, peace, chastity, sharing, also because of comparative expertise and motivation. Also, immediately, I am working to complete my personal manuscript, Refugee Champion, and some additional manuscripts, particularly to present these books to kinfolk here in Denmark, to provide an introduction to the Earth civilization work we do, and to readily facilitate the initial workshops and programs I described. Life is a refugee camp. Earth is a garden. We are continually growing and giving. Such is the nature of life and Earth and universe. Namaste, Assalamu alaikum, Shalom, Mir, Jai Janindra, Satnam, Zaijian, Adios, Che Chakflis, Sayonara, Metta Samadhi, Salongwa Pyongwa, Eshwa Sol, Agabeke Erini, Esempe na Asamuje, Kira Ufred, one love and peace, happiness, liberation.